This is the Morning Tailgate.
Deuce! Goodbye! Into the end zone! 60 yards! Touchdown Raiders!
With Vince Sapienza, Vinny Bonsignor, and Clay Baker.
It's the trifecta for Bowers! His third touchdown of the game! And the Raiders with a chance to win it!
On Raider Nation Radio 920.
Fire up the cue! Grab a beverage or two and settle in. This is the Morning Tailgate on Raider Nation Radio 920, the flagship for the silver and black. Vince Sapienza, Vinny Bonsignor coming to you live from Las Vegas on a Friday, June 19, 2026. Woo! We are back, baby! It has been a hot minute, and yes, it is hot out here in Las Vegas, but it has been a minute. Vinny, we're back. Although not fully complete, me and you, here we are. We did it. We've been reunited. Is this the best day of your week thus far?
You know what? It remains to be seen.
Can you just lie and say yes?
I could be convinced, Vince, without a doubt. Good to hear your voice, and of course we got Connor with us as well, running the what do you guys call it? Running the
Connor on the ones and twos.
The ones and twos, making us sound good.
He gets to press all the buttons that are lit up. They got the pretty colors. Connor, I told Connor this morning he's part of the family, so there was. I'm sure you already did this as well, Vinny. A blanket apology is there, and now it's gone because he's in it. He's in the heat. Connor, how do you feel?
Right.
I'm feeling good. Vinny, I was actually telling Vince before the show, I kind of got thrown in the deep end in a good way, right? I got a little bit of experience, but I've got to work with just about every show here on the flagship with Raider Nation Radio. Got to help out a little bit with some of our other sister stations as well. So it's been a great time so far, and I'm looking forward to rolling with you guys for the next few weeks.
Well, now I have to say, Vince and Connor, for those, we're on radio, so you can't see Connor. I'm not quite sure what deep water would be for you because
he's massive.
You go into the 6 foot water the pool, and you're still well above water, right? So it has to get really deep for Connor. I'll say that right now. But
6'3",
however deep,
6'4".
Oh, I'd be humble if I said that.
Okay, oh boy.
Yeah.
Wow, monster.
He's way taller than us, Vince.
He also learned very quickly that my audio has to be taken down a little bit because I yell. So that was first thing I saw him, I go, he's bringing that. He's potting that down a little bit.
He's like, oh, geez.
Welcome back, Raider Nation. Good to be with you. Good to chat with you. Again, I've been talking about being knee deep in the frozen water that is the ice, the Golden Knights. Vinny, this is crazy as I'm thinking about this.
Okay.
The Golden Knights just reached the Stanley Cup final for the third time in 9 seasons, right? And they have since their arrival, no team has won more playoff series, playoff games, etc. They have been one of the most successful teams in NHL history in terms of when they started in the league. They've gone through 5 head coaches. They're on coach number 5. And when you pair that
different in hockey.
With the Raiders, who have had 6 since they've been in Vegas, which is 2020. Very different outcomes, obviously very different reasons.
Very different dynamics, for sure, right?
Incredibly different dynamics, and it's never apples to apples. But as I was going through the week and I was once again prepping and getting ready for another coaching change with the Golden Knights, I feel like I don't know if there's anybody that's had more practice than the sportscasters and writers in Vegas in terms of coaching changes in the last number of years, albeit for very different reasons. But this coaching change for the Raiders, again, we might have said it, and we have said it every single time, is different. I can truly say now that hindsight's 2020, this one does have a different feel, and not because of who, and not because of the coach. While that is part of it, it's also the lead up to it, the build up to it, the everything that surrounds what led to that decision, what led to that hire, what led to Clint Kubiak being the guy, and seeing the trials and tribulations the Raiders have gone through since 2020. why this one's different, and the build-up, again, leading to what will be his first season as head coach for the Silver and Black.
Yeah, well, it's different because the organization's different, Vince. We have to be straight up about that. I know that some of the faces are the same, including John Spytek, who was here last year, but the fundamental approach, the way this organization is run, specifically on the football side, is just different, and it's different this year than it was last year, without question. And you can feel it, you could sense it, you could breathe in it, you could absorb it, you feel it, you know it, and so. You saying that it's not just Clint Kubiak and who that is and what he's going to bring to the table. It's the fact that what he's bringing to the table that he's bringing all of that to is a completely different table, even though, again, some of the names are the same. And that's what makes this entire operation feel different. I think feels sturdier. I think feels better suited and better situated to create success. I had dinner on Tuesday night with an NFL owner from another team out there in the NFL, and he couldn't stop talking honestly about the Raiders, to be honest with you, and about how the feeling in the NFL is I think he's getting ready to turn around. And he literally said it sucks for everyone else, but I feel like it's going to happen. But what he did also say was, even though it's going to suck for everyone else in the NFL, in a good way, you know what he's talking about, because that thing is coming and that train is headed toward a lot of people, and there's a lot of money on that train, a lot of financial stability on that train, a lot of reasons why players want to play in Las Vegas are on that train. But what he also said was, at the end of the day, it's good for the NFL. The Raiders being good, as much as it might, personally suck for me and other teams, it's good for the NFL. It's going to be good for the NFL. And so when we talk about Clint Kubiak and what's going on in that organization, it's not just us feeling the difference. I'm telling you guys that right now. It's across the NFL, and for good reasons. When
we sit here and do our job, transparency is one of our favorite things, right? It allows us for you to write your stories, for me to go on TV and explain what is happening right now with the team, regardless of the situation. It could be the draft, it could be free agency, it could be training camp, could be competition, could be game planning for a regular season game. Transparency is great for our purposes, right? For teams, for franchises, transparency is not always necessarily at the forefront, right? You want to keep things close to the vest, especially for a team that is trying to build and trying to gain the, get a leg up on other teams. And when you're at the bottom of the totem pole, like the Raiders have been in recent years, you're trying to climb your way up. But sometimes when you're at the bottom, it doesn't matter. You're going to do whatever you think you have to do. You're going to do what's right. The Raiders have kept things close to the vest this offseason in terms of what they wanted to do, right? They're not just putting out their plan for all to see, nor should they. That being said, the plan has been made very clear. And I think the difference in years past compared to what we've seen this offseason is that the plan that was executed, right, Vinny? Like in the last 2-3 months, the plan that was executed, you look back and be like, well, that goes with everything they said they were trying to do and planning to do. Like, they were transparent in that way. You can go back years past, and we've done it on this show the last couple of years, Vinny, where they say they want to do one thing and the plan is not executed, or there's things happening behind the scenes that are not simpatico.
Or
however you want to call it.
Yeah, people going in different directions.
Not on the same page.
Exactly.
And I think that's the difference. That is the secret sauce we've seen this offseason. And, not stepping away, but just having, a minute away and having a different kind of focus on hockey and the Golden Knights and their run and all the stuff, and hearing them talk, again, albeit not apples to apples. I'm not trying to compare the two, but coming back and getting whipped back into this, it's just so completely obvious to what you just said, how transparent it is that the Raiders are going to be a force moving forward. It just seems so blatantly obvious, and that's not something I could say at this point any other year since I've covered the team. Because there was always question marks about, okay, they're trying to win this year. I don't know if they have the horses in the stable to do it. I don't know if they have the means to, pick a reason, right? But again, because of the plan, because of the slow yet aggressive, intelligently aggressive process, it's the writing's almost on the wall.
Yeah, and to further that point, Vince, because of my new job, I have to move around. I go to other teams, and see what's going on over there, and watch other teams and talk to people from other teams. It's really been kind of an eye opener to be able to expand those horizons in a more powerful way than it was just covering the Raiders. And I had my thumb on other things going on, but now it's like a real thing, and so it's allowed me to talk to a bunch of people. And I, came across as part of my job somebody that coached for the Raiders back in 2022, and we had a long talk. And one of the things that he said was, he goes, in retrospect, we should have never traded for the wide receiver.
Davante Adams.
Davante Adams. He goes, it wasn't the right time to give up a first and second round pick. As much as alluring as that was, coming off a quote unquote playoff season the year before, in retrospect, and they kind of figured that out pretty quickly into it. Not anything to do with him. He had a really good year that first year. He put up his numbers basically, right? But it just wasn't the right time to make a move like that. And that goes directly to what you're saying in terms of they're trying to win right now. I don't know if that's the right thing necessarily. Where the Davante Adams is great, but what about a defensive line? What about this? What about that? Et cetera, et cetera. And that we've seen that, and it's hard to fault. Like when I was talking to this coach, it was like it was kind of hard to fault them in real time because Davante Adams wanted to be here. He wanted to be with. How do you say no to Davante Adams, especially coming off? They did go to the playoffs that year, but if you inspect that playoff run, there were some holes in that game, and let's be honest about it. But all that being said, water under the bridge, it feels like now they have that realistic view of themselves and are now planning and executing accordingly for where they really are in their journey, and doing it the right way, and doing it in a way that is reflective of maximizing each next step. And look, when we think about that, Vince, think about how many steps they've made just since January, right? And they methodically made those steps and didn't prioritize 3 steps ahead. It was literally the very next step, whether it was free agency, first of all, the coaching search, then free agency, simultaneous to that, they were preparing for the draft, then they executed the draft, then they went to OT, all of those type of things. Maximized the step that was right in front of them rather than looking 5-6 steps beyond, which is sometimes what this organization has been a culprit of. And so now when we look back at all those steps since January, since that game-winning field goal against the Kansas City Chiefs to earn their 3rd win, but they still had the first pick overall, you think about all the steps that they've made, which is a proof that as long as you just focus on that next step, you can move forward pretty quickly, but not just quickly, but in the right way. And so now the progress that's been made, we're not sitting here and saying they're going to win the Super Bowl by any stretch of the imagination. If we're thinking about it from a football field perspective, they're probably at the 50-yard line right now. Maybe, in terms of the journey to get to the Super Bowl.
Let's call them at the 40. Let's call them at their own 40.
All right, the minus 40.
Yeah.
They're at the minus 40, as we would put in our notebooks when we're doing the statistics. All right, they're at the minus 40. But let's ask ourselves this question, Vince. Where were they in January?
They were backed up. They were
probably backed up by their goal line, right?
That's what I mean. They're here in the first row, munch their popcorn, and
there were a couple of defensive linemen breathing down their neck, maybe almost on the verge of forcing a safety. If you didn't play it safe right there, if you didn't play it correctly, you were liable to give up points and give up possession of the ball because you gave up a safety. But instead they handed it off a couple of times. You know what I'm saying? It was a great game plan to get them to the 40, and now there's 60 yards to go. That's fine. That's okay. Wouldn't you rather, from where they were in January, to be just at the 40-yard line? That's pretty significant from my perspective.
We challenged our audience, and I'll do so again today. 702-365-9200, Raider Nation. When we talk about off seasons, I don't know if there's a better off season. I know there's not a better off season in their time in Vegas.
Oh yeah,
that's a fact. There's not a better off season, top to bottom, in Vegas. We asked the question, I don't know how long ago now, Vinny, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, we asked the question when free agency was just about a wrap. This is even before the draft. Is this the greatest offseason haul, again, knowing Fernando was going to be the number one pick? And there was not a lot of pushback in terms of it being one of the best on paper, right? Again, we all understand they got to do it in September, October,
and they didn't
November.
just sign names, man. They didn't just sign names. There was practicality and prudence and long-term thinking.
You really got to work hard to poke holes in any one move they did. It is basically how we summed it up at the end of the day. You really had to find some. You had to do some.
And that
digging.
was in line. That was in the midst of a grenade blowing up, right? Thankfully, it didn't take any limbs or anything like that, and everybody, you were able to find safety and make the best of it, right? When the grenade going off, the whole Max Crosby situation, even that, they were able to flick it off their shoulders and say, okay, that wasn't what the plan, that wasn't necessarily what we had in mind, but we'll be okay. We'll figure it out and we'll make the best of it. And that's always what we always talk about too, Vince. Whatever the situation is, stop making excuses, stop being woe is me, stop pointing fingers, stop freaking out. Let's make the best of whatever that situation, whatever the cards that are dealt, let's make the best of it. That's the best that you can do, and that's really what you're obligated to do. Otherwise, you're always going to be taking steps backwards rather than steps forward.
And they have done that to this point. Again, the context, the caveat is they got to go do it on the field. We all understand that. But right now on June 19th, we can't get them on the field. We are in that pocket of the offseason where it is status quo. There's very little going to be happening over the next course of the couple weeks before we get to training camp next month, before pads get on next month, and things really get going with the preseason leading up to the regular season. This window of the offseason is obviously unique because the NFL is a machine in terms of being elite and keeping them at the forefront of conversation, right? Like NBA Finals, Stanley Cup Final, that's all well and good. Baseball season, getting ready for the Midsummer Classic. NFL, the football, constantly is at the forefront of conversation. Look no further than just a couple days ago, your topic, Vinny, Brendan Sorsby, right? Like that is a massive national topic in the midst of the pocket of the football season where football shouldn't be talked about. And we're talking Raiders. We are the flagship, so of course we're going to be, hitting it heavy each and every day here on Raider Nation Radio 920. But last night, again, to talk about keeping things at the forefront, the Raiders once again provide us the one clip I think all of Raider Nation was waiting for. Vinny, and I'm not being overdramatic, the Raider Nation wanted this clip from the moment Fernando Mendoza said, I just FaceTime Tom Brady at the NFL Scouting Combine. The moment he said that at the podium, Raider Nation was salivating. Raider Nation was oozing. Raider Nation was feeding for this clip. And albeit we are a auditory medium, we are not a visual medium. So if you have not seen it, I do recommend you go watch it. But if you have not heard it, here's Fernando Mendoza meeting Tom Brady for the first time.
How you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you guys. Thank you guys. Come on, say hi. Oh shoot! What's up, Mr. Brady? How you doing? Or Tom, how you doing? Yeah, love it. How you doing? Great. I'm blessed here at the combine right now. While we get this interview going. No, I'm great. Ready for the opportunity.
Good. All right, well, enjoy everybody. Just want to say hi. And, yeah, good luck on everything. And just keep being yourself, man. You're doing a great job.
Appreciate it. Thank you. God bless.
Yeah, same here, babe. Take care. We'll see you soon.
Man, does that not just warm the heart? Oh, shoot. What's up, Mr. Brad? Tom? I call
Boss.
Tom. Sir?
Your lordship.
Sir Goatship?
The G.
I mean,
G of all G's.
I don't know how many times, Connor, I'll be honest with you. I've lost track of how many times I've watched that clip. The sincerity, and that's a word I consistently use with Fernando Mendoza, the sincerity that he possesses, right? It's, Vinny, let's just break down that moment, okay? Let's break down that moment. He's walking into the Raiders' room where it's filled with 20-plus staff, front office, execs, scouts, right? Is that a fair number? I mean,
Yeah. Teens. I'd say teens.
Teens. It's a big number, especially you could be as
it
prepared.
could be overwhelming for the kid.
No, it could. It has to be. I don't care what he says. I don't care how much prep or practice or whatever you've had for that moment. It's a job interview. I don't care if you are overqualified for a job. Every job interview I've ever been in, which I've not been overqualified for any job, but I will just say I have been nervous as all hell. Right? And so walking in that moment, he's standing upright, he's on his P's, he's on his Q's, and then he just kind of gets hit with a curveball. And that's what they're trying to get. They're trying to get the real you, right? They're not trying to get the polished version. They're trying to get the real you. And that's what you hear. Oh, shoot. What's up, Mr. Brett? Or let me snap back. Tom? Like, you could hear his voice change. You could hear. And then he kind of settles in, and it was beautiful. It was fantastic. If you're Raider Nation, you sit there, that's your quarterback. That's your guy. Pure sincerity. He is who he says he is. We're going to dive more into what that moment meant and the bigger picture that is behind the shield, as it were. Coming up here on the Morning Tailgate, Raider Nation Radio, 920, 702-365-9200. We're talking Raiders offseason, and we're gonna ask some real questions, Vinny, about what's to come next. And if you've seen that behind the shield,
gotta watch it.
What'd you make of it? We'll get to more of that first, but coming up first, it's Vinny.
Hey guys, since 1942, Sal's Mexican restaurants have been serving the best Mexican food in California's Central Valley. From their award-winning salsas to all their classics like chili carne and chili verde, it's been a go-to restaurant, and quite frankly, restaurants for multiple generations. But here's the thing, you don't even have to be in California or the Central Valley to enjoy this great food. All you got to do is go to salsmexicanrestaurant.com. That's salsmexicanrestaurant.com. To get hooked up, you go online, you put your order in, and this way, wherever you are, all that food gets delivered to you. Your next party, your next family get-together, or your next tailgate is set up. However, if you are in the Central Valley, maybe you live there, maybe you're passing through, make sure to stop by their locations in Selma, Fresno, or Madera. And when you do, ask for Sal, Carl, or any of their managers and let them know that the Morning Tailgate and Raider Nation Radio sent you. Or again, just go to salsmexicanrestaurant.com.
Vince, Vinny, and Clay want to hear from you. Call or text the show at 702-365-9200. Now, back to the Morning Tailgate.
Welcome back inside the Morning Tailgate, Raider Nation Radio, 920. Vince and Vinny here. We're talking Raiders, we're talking offseason, and we're talking about the moment that went viral last night. Really was viral in a sense of how it was being talked about back in February in terms of the NFL Scouting Combine. Fernando Mendoza getting FaceTime by Tom Brady, a guy who he said even before the Raiders had the number one overall pick, he was his mentor, he was his idol, he was the guy who he tried to become in terms of preparation, in terms of work, in terms of approaching the game. And now, not only does he get to work hand in hand, but he truly gets to be mentored in a way unlike anything he could have probably imagined. Now, that clip came from the Raiders. their Dynamite Silver and Black Productions. Dynamite. Award-winning Silver and Black Productions. They put their first episode of the highly anticipated show Behind the Shield. And when I say this is must-see TV, not just this year, but every year, it's as good as it gets. And for somebody whose job it is to, uncover, tell stories, find different things to discuss and talk about, this is transparency unlike anything else. The Behind the Shield episode entitled Who We Are, Episode 1. It's about 25 minutes. If you have not watched it, I highly recommend you go over to Raiders.com, Raiders YouTube. Check this thing out. It is unbelievable because if you want a true behind-the-scenes look at not just what has taken place over the last couple months, but the why, the how, and more importantly, the who. The people you don't see. The people that don't get talked about as to how this machine goes. It is more than worth the 25 minutes. I watched it last night with the fam a little bit. Again, it always blows me away. If you're into the Hard Knocks, if you're into the quarterback documentary on Netflix, this is as good, if not better, because this is your team. This is you. This is everything you're trying to find answers for, just as we are reporting on the team, and you are being delivered it in a perfect 25-minute package as to what took place, how it took place, and who is behind a lot of it. And it is perfectly prepared. I can't say enough good things about it, Vinny. We're going to dive into a lot of different aspects of it, but just your overall takeaway from the episode.
Yeah, and I think specifically, your I don't want to put words in your mouth, but really the front office aspect of it and the scouting department aspect of it, and the and really honestly, kudos to John Spytek for being okay with letting the cameras in and giving some shine to some people besides just himself. I know that's really important to him. He came up as a scout. He put a lot of legwork into his career to get where he's gotten, and there's some people alongside him. I wouldn't even call it underneath him. I know he would hate to even use that term, but alongside him in this front office that he wants to, create, great futures for as well. The Brandon Jurgens, the Brian Starks, the Brandon Hunts, to name just a few, but very prominent voices in the entire operation of, as we talked all offseason about, the Fernando Mendoza element not being a coronation, but a thorough investigation and deep dive into, hey, is this the guy that we really want to hand the keys of our franchise off to? Is he wired the right way? Let alone how he plays, and that's obviously a huge factor. But who is he? What type of player is he? What do his coaches think? What do his former teammates think? What do the cafeteria worker in Bloomington, Indiana think? Again, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, maximizing each and every step, the very next step, and to see that support staff and that the teamwork and the vision and really the intelligence and the high quality people that are in the building, and seeing them do their thing throughout that process. And it wasn't just about Fernando Mendoza; it was the entire draft class. Traden Stukes and on and on and on, all the way down to some of the undrafted free agents, a couple of guys who have caught some major eyes during this offseason and OTAs and minicamp. And again, kudos to John Spytek for being okay for others to get some shine. Not everybody rolls that way, but John does. I know that, and I know that he's really appreciative of the great support that he gets, because it's not a one-man show. It never is. And there's a lot of voices. There's look, Vince, we talk about everybody rowing in the same direction and everybody being on the same page. Don't mistake that. I'm not talking to you directly, but anybody, and sometimes we're all guilty of this. Don't mistake that for John Spytek not challenging the people around him to challenge him, to come up with different ideas, to have contrasting views. And it's okay. It's okay to be sitting over there on that side of the table. I'm over here on this side of the table. Explain to me why you're over there and not over here. And maybe we could both meet in the middle, or maybe you'll come over to my side, or maybe I'll come over to your side. We'll get there. But it's healthy to have those types of discussions. So there's not a bunch of yes people in that building. There's people that have their own ideas within the framework of what they're trying to achieve, but bringing their own thoughts to the table, which the more the better in that regard.
John Spytek is fairly open, I would say, as a general manager in the National Football League, especially only in his second year, right? Every time he stepped to the podium, he's, again, I use the word transparency. As transparent as it gets, right? With a GM, they're not going to put all their cards on the table, right? We understand that, but I've not heard John Spytek talk more than when asked about his staff or the how the building process. Brian Stark, Brandon Hunt, Brandon Jurgen. I mean, he shines a light on these guys in a massive way, and it's intentional, and because it means something to him. You just said the legwork. I'll just call it what it is, the grunt work. That is scouting. Scouting is not a glamorous job. It is a lot of long days that turn into weeks, months on the road, right? Like, you're not eating at these 5-star places when you go to, and I'm not discrediting cities, but just any city, you pick a city, right, in the country to go see a kid. You're in hotels just going from place to place, just trying to uncover the gem that hopefully your team is in position to take if they're good enough. It is a wild process, and I'm still waiting for the day on a true scouting docuseries to just follow to show how unglamorous that is.
You know what's funny about that is I was talking to a general manager. I go, how do you monitor all that? Because you painted a really great picture of kind of the life. You're on the road all the time. You're going from school to school, game to game, practice to practice. This is during the course of the fall, and as a scout, what you're ultimately going to do is write write-ups on all of the players that you go see, right? And there's a list and all that kind of stuff. But you're assigned, a certain number of reports, and you have to have them in by a certain date, because the general manager is now going to look over that, and the director of scouting is going to look over that, and they need that information. And I asked a general manager recently, how do you kind of monitor, that, like, everybody's workload? And he said, it can get a little interesting, because we know what's supposed to be coming, but there's people that do it on a daily basis or a weekly basis, and there's others that, hey, brother, you got about 3 more weeks left to go, and I don't see any of your reports in here. And it's coming, but just like anybody else, sometimes there's guys that are out there and gals that are doing this as well that procrastinate a little bit. And now you're in crunch mode, writing all these reports up at the, not at the last second necessarily. You don't ever want to get it to that. But you're putting yourself in a bad situation. So that actually does happen. Those types of things happen. That's why when we talk about a general manager, the word manager is not just about the football team. You're literally managing a staff of scouts and a bunch of other things. But those are the people that report to you, and you have assignments to do, and you have to get those into the general manager. And it was funny because I was like, you would think, okay, they would write it after, they'd go back to the hotel and write it up. Some do, some don't. Some want to have, okay, here's my thought in October, but I'm going to wait, or September or August, but I'm going to wait until I see it again down in wherever, late October or early November, to fill in some blanks. I'm not quite there yet on this player. So there's ways to go about doing that, but you have to eventually get your work in. And there's some general managers out there. Sometimes they're sweating bullets. Like, where's this guy's reports? There's 40 players I'm waiting on him to have write-ups on. We need that information. Let's get this. Don't put yourself in a position where you got to burn the midnight oil doing a whole bunch of reports at the last second.
It's a thankless job, at more often than not, because your entire hope is that one of your guys in your region or your section or your conference or whatever you're covering is a guy. And not only the guy that you're covering, hopefully that the Raiders take. And then when they take them, now pressure's on you. Pressure's on you in that report. Now, again, it doesn't just fall solely on that one single scout, but you get my point.
Yeah.
You are scouting hundreds and hundreds of kids, and this isn't just watching tape. This isn't just going to a Saturday afternoon game. You're talking to coaches. You're talking to teammates. You're talking to, hopefully, parents. You're trying to get an idea of you're trying to uncover everything. Find out the why of this 18 to 22-year-old kid, what he may become, what he may do, and it is a fascinating process, the scouting world. Again, Behind the Shield doesn't necessarily go that deep into it, but it does give you a nice light in terms of the work that does get done, some of the meeting rooms that John Spytek holds with Brandon Jurgen, again, Brian Stark, Brandon Hunt, all these guys getting together, how they come together, how they delineate and disseminate all the information that they have, because the information is seemingly endless at times.
And Vince, you know this as well as anyone. You don't get all the guys you really want, right?
No,
it's just not
never
possible. There's so many good players out there. And to further that point, there was a rookie wide receiver I saw out in my travels. I'm like, whoa, okay, I see why. So I texted somebody and I was like, hey man, I'm over here and I'm seeing this guy over here. Woo, okay. And the text back was, we wanted that guy in the third round, but he ended up getting drafted in the second round. And so there was, but you have to play your cards right. And it's not that they are upset whatsoever by who they took in the second round. They love that player, but they were kind of, we had to make a decision right there and went in this direction. But hopefully the guy that we have our eye on is going to be there in the third round. But some other team had a different idea, and so you just have to eat it and move on. And like we keep saying, make the best of it. But yeah, there's a lot of guys out there in the NFL that a lot of guys liked, and unfortunately you can't get all of them. That's just not possible.
It's just you don't want to be, how do we miss that guy? Like that's the one line you don't want to hear from really anybody, specifically your GM. But how did we miss this guy?
Yeah, well, they're and in this case, they were they were really happy with who they got.
Yeah, that's where I thought you were going though. When you saw this receiver, and you're like, how did we miss?
But they were hoping and thinking that he was going to be there early in the third round. It just so happens that somebody took him in the second round. They liked him, in that round over some other options that team had. But that was one you just got to let. All right, unfortunately that one didn't work out.
Vinny, when I in my first market up in Washington State, I was covering a junior hockey team, right? And I'm sitting there at the dinner media meal, and I'm just eating as much as I can because it's my first job. I'm just trying to.
You were making pennies.
I was just trying to do what I was trying to do. That being said,
top ramen.
I'm sitting there, and me being the talkative guy I can be, I started talking to this one guy, and turns out he was a hockey scout, and I was like, oh my gosh, what an amazing. You get to just go from game to game, and especially with hockey, there's games every single night, right? And I'm thinking, man, you just get to go to a hockey game. And he looked at me with as much respect for his job as he could, and he looks at me, and for about 20 to 25 minutes, he basically broke down what his days look like, and I was like, that sounds terrible. That sounds exhausting. I go, when's the last time you've been home? He was like, about 4 weeks. And I was like, what? And again, not quite apples to apples, but not too dissimilar. The scouting
and
life
where
is
were you? Where was
Tri-Cities, Washington. This is
there
junior hockey. This is a guy. This is a 60-some-year-old man who had been scouting for years. Still scouting. Maybe he enjoyed it. I don't know. But 15 to 19-year-old kids. Right. It's a hard living, but a good living and a fun living as long as you enjoy it. We're going to continue our conversation here next on the Morning Tailgate. We went too long. We'll get to our question of the day next here on Raider Nation Radio 920.
We'll take your comments and questions on X. Follow us at RNR920AM. Let's dig in to the Morning Tailgate on Raider Nation Radio 920.
Your friend John Spytek. How you doing? Good to see you. Great to see you guys. Thank you guys. Come on, say hi. Oh shoot! What's up, Mr. Brady? How you doing? Or Tom? How you doing?
Mr. Brady's my dad.
Yeah, love it. How you doing?
Doing, man.
Great. I'm blessed here at the Combine right now. Hope we get this interview going. I'm great. Ready for the opportunity.
Yeah, all right, well, enjoy everybody. I just want to say hi. And, good luck on everything. And just keep being yourself, man. You're doing a great job.
Appreciate it. Thank you. God bless.
Yeah, same here, babe. Take care. We'll see you soon.
That is one Fernando Mendoza FaceTiming Tom Brady at the NFL Combine, courtesy of the Raiders. Silver and Black Productions, Behind the Shield. Fresh episode up on Raiders.com, YouTube. Go check it out. I implore you. Now, Vinny, we got so excited about the episode itself, we never properly brought up the question. But it's June 19th. It's okay. No, we're not going to get in trouble. But it did beg the question. It did beg the question. Because the first time I saw it, it reminded me of a kid meeting his hero for the first time, or meeting any athlete for the first time, and had me thinking of the first time I met an athlete and how I kind of was like, oh my god, I'm gonna try and keep this cool. Now I will fast forward a little bit. So basically the question is, I want to hear from the nation, what was your first athlete experience, and did you play it off as well as one Fernando Mendoza? Fernando's met a lot of athletes, right? Up into his college days, winning a national championship, Heisman. He's met a lot of stars, right? But not many topped Tom Brady, who was a guy, his mentor, and again, the GOAT. What'd you say, his lordship, the GOAT-ship that is the GOAT-ship that is TB12? I'll say this. So, obviously in my profession, I've been lucky enough to meet a lot of stars, interview a lot of stars, all that different things. We all have. I remember when I was first getting started, I might have told this story already. I was interning at a KABC in Los Angeles, and I was also simultaneously working for the LA Galaxy. It's also match day. Go USA. Take on Australia. Beat those Kangaroos today. Any hooser. Because they knew I worked at the LA Galaxy was in the Western Conference Championship, and they sent me out with a photog to help go get some sound. They needed some sound for their Friday show leading up to the game, right? And because they knew this, they set up an interview, but I didn't know who I was talking to. And long story short, it was David Beckham. I was doing a one-on-one with David Beckham. And this is 18, 19-year-old Vince, who's still trying to figure out how to put together a question, let alone a full sit-down interview. And I just see this long row on the concourse of media from not all over the country, all over the world. This is David Beckham, an international superstar. And I'm thinking, at least I'll have some time, right? Like, he's got to get through a bunch of people. But because they knew who I was, and I worked at the LA Galaxy, they go, Vince, you get him first. You get him fresh. And I wanted to go crawl in a corner because I'm like, am I ready for this? But you step up to the plate, Vinny, right? Ready or not? And I'm not going to lie. I got 8 minutes with him. I crushed it. I absolutely crushed it. Do I remember what questions I? Absolutely not. I just remember at the end, I knew he was a big Lakers fan. And I made some kind of thing about the Lakers, and I dug up some stat where when he was at Lakers games, the Lakers had a perfect record. Like, he hadn't seen a loss in like a year and a half of all the games that he had been to. And I brought that record up to him or whatever it was, and he laughed, and I thought, I made it. I made it. I did it. And I don't know if Fernando was thinking that per se. I made it at the NFL Combine, but I feel like it was close. I feel like it was close. So that was my first thought when I saw that clip last night. So we want to hear from you, 702-365-9200, as we continue to talk Behind the Shield, the episode 1, Who We Are, that dropped last night. What was your first experience with an athlete that helped shape your fandom, that helped become a new fan of somebody, that just made you even more of a fan? Let's hear from you, Raider Nation. It's hour number 2 on the way. Alex Eshelman will be joining us at the half hour. Conversation continues here on the Morning Tailgate, Raider Nation Radio 920.
This is the Morning Tailgate.
There have been plenty of other coaches, but why not us? Why not this staff? Why not this group of players? I look at it as what a great challenge. We're going to be about the work.
He is back, baby! And the Raiders regain the lead!
With Vince Sapienza, Vinny Bonsignor, and Clay Baker on Raider Nation Radio 920.
Flying through into hour number 2 here on the Morning Tailgate. It's Raider Nation Radio 920. Vince Sapienza, Vinny Bonsignor, coming to you live from Las Vegas on a Friday, June 19th, 2026. Welcome in, everybody. We're talking Behind the Shield, who we are. Episode 1, courtesy of the Raiders. Fernando Mendoza and the viral clip of him FaceTiming Tom Brady. And that adorable, sweet, sincere moment that was Fernando seeing Tom Brady. Vinny, take me back to a young Vinny. Who was young Vinny's idol in any sport?
I would have to say going way, way back.
Yeah.
And I never did meet him, so look, I'm somebody that my favorite football player at the time, way when I was a little kid, was Fran Tarkington. I was a big baseball fan, so Johnny Bench and Pete Rose, guys like that. I ended up meeting Pete Rose. It's just so it's interesting for me because I really did grow up at a very young age. We used to go to Dallas Cowboys training camps in Thousand Oaks. They used to practice in Thousand Oaks when I was a kid. My dad would always take us up there every single summer. And back then you had 2-a-days, like literally 2-a-day practices, sometimes 3 practices a day. And we would stay there the entire day. And I'm somebody that was literally carrying Roger Staubach's helmet from their dormitories out to the practice field or the locker room out to the practice, talking to Roger Staubach when I'm like 12 years old, Tony Dorsett, so I got an early taste of it. So for me, it's less about the athletes, and I got to know guys when they were super young. I knew Kobe Bryant when he was 17 years old, Magic Johnson when he was in his very early 20s, and so I don't necessarily think that I've ever really had that kind of feeling because I started so early in that regard, like brushing elbows with major stars. However, that doesn't mean that for me it's more music people or actors and actresses like big stars like that. Like the one that to this day took my breath away in terms of meeting the person and getting to converse with that person was Prince, literally. And it was inside of all places, the press room, the media room at Staples Center. It was the Chick Hearn media room.
Yep.
And it was during the NBA Finals. I forget which one. And at that time, if you've been to the Chick Hearn media room, that's where we had our pregame meal as well. The media did. But because it's the NBA Finals and you got reporters from all over the world, quite frankly, they opened that up to make that just the entire back room and the front room a work area, right? We ate someplace else. And so it's halftime. I go running back to the media room to start writing, getting some thoughts together on my, kind of away from press row. And I'm in there, and there's a restroom in that media room right off the court, basically. And who comes walking in as I'm walking out of the restroom is Prince, and we literally bumped into each other, and I'm like, I was taken aback, Vince. It took my breath away that it was really Prince, and he just went, hey, how you doing? Great game, and I'm like, okay, we're talking about the basketball game. I want to talk about how'd you figure out to write, Lady Cab? I like all these questions, but of course I didn't go there. But it literally took me about 30, 40 seconds to go back to my seat in the media room and sit down and just kind of come down from that.
Right.
So for me, it was somebody of that world, not so much.
That's fine. That's fine. But again, just that sincere, oh my gosh, moment. Like I remember when I got to Vegas, and before the Golden Knights were here, they would have
Muhammad Ali.
Muhammad Ali's a great one.
He would be the one for me.
That's a pretty good one. You talk about
definitely now that I think, and it was in Las Vegas.
You talk about your goat ship,
right?
But it's just, and it doesn't even have to be the biggest names. Those are great big names, and those are awesome. I remember, before the Golden Knights were playing hockey here, I grew up in Southern California, right? And I got to, my way of being able to stay up late was if I watched hockey. So I would fall asleep to Bob Miller, play-by-play for the LA Kings, and that he was literally my lullaby to falling asleep at night. I would watch LA Kings games because his voice was just not put me to sleep, but it was soothing in a way that I would watch it, was watching hockey, da-da-da. When I came out here, the Frozen Four was always held here in Las Vegas, Frozen Frenzy. Whatever they, I can't remember what they got. Is that what it was called, Connor?
Frozen Frenzy, yeah.
Frozen Frenzy, that's what it was called. And they would come out here, and it was always the LA Kings that would come out to Vegas. And I remember Bob Miller walked past me on the concourse, and I had a moment like, this is the guy that, I basically went to bed every night listening to his calls, and he's kind of, I don't want to say he's the reason, but he's a piece of the pie that got me to where I am, and he doesn't even know who I am. And I was one of those guys, Vinny, I'm going to go up to him. I say, Bobo. No, I didn't say Bobo. I said, Mr. Miller. First, I did an interview with him for TV, trying to be professional, and then I basically was like, look,
you're my God.
You're the guy that kind of you taught me hockey, and you weren't even
I went to
professor.
bed with you every night.
Yeah, that kind of thing, and he couldn't have been more awesome about it. He's like, that's awesome to hear, So those kinds of moments, those are the moments that, at least personally for me, that those are the memories that rush to me when I saw the clip. It's one thing to hear that I got to FaceTime Tom Brady. That's cool, but to see this is what I'm talking about. That difference, that sincerity that you can only see on another human's face is what you saw out of Fernando. And I think it was such a cool moment. And the fact that the Raiders not only were able to capture it, not only to create that moment, but to share it with Raider Nation is such a massive deal to understanding who he is, why he is, and embracing him. Because at the end of the day, we're trying to wrap our arms around this team, right? If you're a member of Raider Nation, how do we get behind the team? It's easy to get behind a number 1 overall pick. Let's get behind the personality. Let's get behind the human. It's easy to get behind the guy that throws for 20 touchdowns, wins a national championship, It's easy to get behind a guy like that. Let's get behind the personality of these guys and really give your kids, give the next generation somebody to get behind it for more than just the yards, the touchdowns, and what he does on Sundays.
Yeah, and let's hope that he does all those things as well.
Agree. Yeah,
sure.
Let's add that to. Let's add that to it.
Two quick stories. Why this is not just exclusive to us, and why Fernando's reaction was so genuine. And I've seen that. We've both seen that from major stars to other major stars. And we mentioned Muhammad Ali. I'll never forget being in the Lakers locker room, and this is in the 80s. We're talking Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Even though Kareem was kind of back there laughing a little bit, he knew Muhammad from way, way back. So he wasn't quite as starstruck as Magic, Michael Cooper, Byron Scott, and all the others were. Because here comes Muhammad Ali walking in the Laker locker room. And when I say that everybody, there was like this gasp from Magic Johnson right on down to everyone else except for Kareem. He's over there laughing. But and so Muhammad comes in there, and guys they literally congregated around him. And then he started doing this. He would always do this elevation trick that he would do, like it looked like he was coming off the ground. And to this day, I think he was coming off the ground, but that's just me. And they were awestruck. Again, Kareem's over there going, "Yeah, man, I've seen that one a million times." But so to see their reaction was unbelievable. Another quick one. one was back in the day I'd have to work boxing nights at the Forum. They always did it on Monday nights. And it was just, there were some good up-and-comers that you would see boxing and a couple guys that ended up becoming champions. But it was one of those cards on a Monday night at the Forum that was more for young guys, right? Up-and-comers. So they weren't really named guys by that point. Some of them became names. But I had to go run down to the locker room, and if you've ever been to a boxing locker room on a night like that, everyone's kind of it was literally the Laker locker room, and they're all getting ready for their particular fights, right? And so there was probably about 5 fighters on the card that were in there at various stages of getting dressed, getting warmed up, and who walks in but Mike Tyson? And at that time, he was the heavyweight champion of the world. And all those guys, all those other boxers, you would have thought that, whoever walked in, like the highest of the highest, which he was, I guess, at that time, and especially to them, and they lost their cool. They were like, and he was like, guys, you have to fight, relax, chill. I'm just a dude. Just relax, and he could sense that they were like getting out of their little realm that you have to be in before you go out there and fight, and he kind of felt a little bit bad about it. But to see their reactions to Mike Tyson was just so cool. And the last thing I'll say is Vince Scully for sure. There was never a time ever, not in my entire life, no matter how my name is in the press box of the Dodgers press box as one of the writers over the years that have covered the team. It's like one of the greatest honors of my life when I look at other names up there and I'm like, why is my name up there? But hey, it is, and I'm super proud of it. But no matter how whatever I've gotten in my career, I never ever, and I know Paul Gutierrez can probably speak to this as well, because when you're covering the Dodgers, at some point you're eating dinner, after batting practice, you got your game, your notebook done, you go into the cafeteria or the little dining room right behind the press box, right behind press row, to get a quick meal. And invariably on every night, Vince Scully would come walking through to go to his table, which is a little bit off 2 hours. And he would always stop at, the writer's table, and he would say something like, there they are, the chroniclers of the day, and they would go through some spiel about us, and the role that we played. And then he would stop and talk, and we would have a regular conversation with Vince Scully. There was never any time ever, not in my entire career, where he didn't leave and I just didn't go my way, and I didn't think to myself, I just talked to Vince Scully. Like, I don't care how old I got, how big I got, quote unquote, and I'm using that definitely in air quotes, but I still can never get over the fact that Vince Scully knew me and that Vince Scully talked to me and talked to us, and I had conversations with the great Vince Scully.
702-365-9200. Your thoughts on the viral clip that is Fernando FaceTiming Tom Brady. What did that mean to you to see the sincerity, the genuineness? Is it possible to become a bigger fan of Fernando from that clip? And what are some of your early memories and run-ins with athletes that have helped shaped your fandom, whether it's with the Raiders or elsewhere? 702-365-9200. Great story, Vinny. It's good stuff. Again, as a fellow SoCalian, that warms my heart as well, because it felt like he was talking to me every single time I was watching Dodgers game, and I know I'm not the only one who thinks that. So it's very cool to hear those kinds of stories. Let's get out to the phone, shall we? Charles in Oregon. Welcome back on the tailgate. Good to hear from you. Hope all is well. Happy Friday. What do you got for us?
Hey, happy Friday, guys. We made it to the weekend. But, hey, I just got to say, that video, the Behind the Shield, I watched it last night. Absolutely amazing. Just to see the insights that it gave, whether it's, like you said, learning from the scouts, the GM, all that kind of thing. What I was really taken aback by, not only Fernando, was Traden Stoops. I don't know what it is. Every time I listen to that guy, I just get this vibe like he's gonna jump. From jump, he's gonna be really good. So I have a feeling he gives off like a Fred Warner vibe to me, even though he's a safety. I get it, but so I don't know. There's something about Traden Stoops. As far as my experiences, well, before I was Charles from Oregon, I was raised in the Monterey Bay of California, so I got to meet a lot of Raiders. From Willie Brown. I met Jack Tatum, which is really intimidating. That guy gives off, wow. Met Cliff Branch at an apricot festival in Patterson, California.
Okay.
I met Fred Blitnikoff in Stockton. But the one that will always stand out to me, I was 37 years old. It was right before I was moving to Oregon. And the YMCA Modesto had a fundraising dinner, and Jim Plunkett was there. And when I was a kid, I looked up to him so much, man. This guy was my hero as far as football was concerned. And the part that really took me aback was when I met him, he could not be more of a humble person. Just very soft-spoken, very intelligent, very kind. He signed all my stuff, but the better part was at one point during the dinner, he goes, "Hey, Charles, come here. Come sit down." And I just sat down and talked with him for about 30 minutes about football. That was one of the best experiences in my life. And, I was 37 years old, and I felt like I was 13 again watching him win the Super Bowl in 1984. So that was my experience. Jim Plunkett, hey, God bless you guys. You guys have a great day.
Charles, that's a great story.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Vince, there's that old saying, don't meet your heroes. I completely reject that. Yeah, maybe one out of, every 8 or so let you down. But I don't think that I'm speaking out of school, at least from my perspective. Maybe you have a different perspective. But genuinely speaking, I'm always more, it reinforces my feeling about them being a hero, quote unquote, because of the quality of person that they are. There's a common thread a lot of times between the greats, and it's their humbleness, and it's their there's an aura about them. And so for me, I'm rarely let down in those regards.
Yeah.
Not to say that there aren't some jerks out there. I'm not saying that,
of course. I just can't get past Charles just sitting at. First of all, he was at an apricot festival. I've never heard that. That's awesome.
Sounds delicious.
It does sound delicious. Again, I'm not hating it. I'm just simply saying I've never heard anybody utter the phrase, "I was at an apricot festival." So that's cool. But the other part is, could you imagine Jim Plunkett saying, "Hey, get over here. Let's talk some ball. Let's talk a little pigskin." That's cool. Great story, Charles in Oregon. Let's get back out to the phones. Waiting patiently is our good friend Fabian. Welcome inside the morning tailgate. Happy Friday. What do you got for us?
How you doing?
Great. How are you?
Finishing up my walk here in the morning. It's a nice, lovely. What's my watch say?
Have we got to
wonderful 86 degrees
86?
up here up in Centennial Hills?
Oh yeah, but, it's a little cooler.
Getting to the matter at hand, I got to meet and shake the hands of the man who caught the Sea of Hands, Clarence Davis. I believe it was at the Coliseum during one of the games, but to shake the hands that caught that pass. I mean, I was a kid when that happened, but it was definitely an honor. Then my second, I think, one of my other honors, got to meet the great Brent Musburger in line going into Allegiant.
There you go.
Okay. Nicest gentleman. I mean, I've been listening to him all my life, and to meet the voice.
That's amazing.
That was, and if I can, let me give a big shout out to my buddy Reggie. Reggie, if you're listening, hope all's well, and much prayers and love to you.
All righty.
All right, thanks, Fabian. Appreciate you. Share the sentiment as well.
Fabian.
Thanks for the call. Wow, Sea of Hands. Shaking the hand of the Sea of Hands. That's cool. That's almost like the equivalent of like if you fist bump any boxer that you're a fan of, and you're like, I just hit the fists that hits the faces of other people.
Kind of, I was just going to say, Vinny, we were talking about the first time we met some of our favorite athletes, things like that. When I first started getting into the sports broadcasting business as a young producer, young sports broadcaster, I had the chance to meet Justin Gaethje, and that was that was one of those moments where it was actually following up his fight with Max Holloway for the BMF, where he had the last second knockout. And I was like,
this
hey,
was after that.
This was right after it. And I'm talking to him at a Pro-Am, at a golf tournament, and he was like, yeah, man, I plan on bouncing back. It was a tough defeat. And, one of the big things he says is, my plan is to go back and get the belt back from Ilya. And just the way everything shook out and the fact that it all happened last week, and that was a big moment. So it's cool to see those guys. Like you said, you bump fists with them, and then they get to go on and do big things.
You bumped his fist?
Heck yeah.
So you're part of that process. You're part of him getting back to the championship. That's how I see it.
I got the photo. I got the fist bump to prove it.
That's awesome. Justin Gaethje, by the way, awesome dude. Always great with the fans. So I love hearing that, because even in his darkest moments, which he's talked about after that fight with Max Holloway, he had some dark times because, that knockout from Holloway was everywhere. And he talked about the mental toll that was, but he bounced back, and now look at him. He's at the top of his class. And quick story on Brent Musburger. I share what Fabian said. Obviously, an ultimate legend for what I do. You talk about a guy whose voice you wanted to mimic, and you wanted his voice, because there was only one Brent Musburger voice early on in my career here in Vegas. I wrote up basically it's called it's a package, basically a voice narration, but I was looking for somebody, with some gravitas. And I reached out to Brent Musburger and I said, hey, I wrote this up. It was for the Golden Knights. And I was like, would you read this and then we get to air it? He's like, love to. And him reading my words, that was part of my story. You talk about a cool moment. You talk about, the guy from The Water Boy made it, and that was it was good stuff. 702-365-9000 is the number. We want to continue to get your thoughts and your reaction to Fernando Mendoza getting that viral moment and us being able to see it from the episode of Behind the Shield. We're going to continue to react to that episode that was Behind the Shield episode 1. Coming up next, though, Alex Eshelman, KTNV. She's going to be joining us here on the Morning Tailgate. We'll see what her first athlete moments was that helped shape her not only career but her fandom of sport. If you're waiting, we're going to get to you on the other side. We want to hear from you. 702-365-9200 here on the Morning Tailgate.
Vince, Vinny, and Clay want to hear from you. Call or text the show at 702-365-9200. Now, back to the Morning Tailgate.
Welcome back inside the Morning Tailgate, Raider Nation Radio 920. Alex Eshelman set to join us here in a matter of minutes. Let's get to you up on the text line, shall we? Gage. Oh, Vinny, we got congratulations in order. I'm just seeing this. Gage says, I want to say Happy Father's Day to all of Raider Nation out there.
Oh, nice.
I welcomed my baby boy into the world last Friday on the 12th. Such a blessing. Guess what? His name? Max, with 2 X's. Beautiful. Congratulations, nice. Gage. He also said, I met one professional athlete in my lifetime, Darren McFadden, at a meet and greet in a casino in Southwest Missouri. Signed my jersey and a good couple minutes with him. Very sincere guy. Darren McFadden's awesome. Darren McFadden is a great guy. So good on Darren McFadden. Funky Raider says, good morning, my Funketeers. Happy Juneteenth. I had the pleasure of meeting 2 local greats in Vince Scully, Chick Hearn, and the greatest, Muhammad Ali. Are you Funky Raider? Man, he met all these guys you met. Are you in Funky Raider 1?
Living in Southern California, you're bound to run into some people. Although mine for Muhammad Munn was at the Forum, but also here in Las Vegas. We just so happened to be in Las Vegas, me and my family, when I was a little kid. When Joe Louis passed away, the great boxer Joe Louis passed away, and they had a big celebration for him at Caesar's Palace at the boxing arena. See, my dad was a huge Joe Louis fan, so he said, "We got to go." It was free. Jesse Jackson did the whole ceremony, and the pallbearers were, get this, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Muhammad Ali, Larry Holmes was the heavyweight champion, I believe, at the time. It was like a who's who. So afterwards, I'm just there as a kid. This was a pretty awe-inspiring afternoon, to say the least. when guys like Frank Sinatra are getting up there talking, because Frank played a huge role in, I don't know if you know this, but Joe Louis had to give up years of his career to go be in World War II. Now, at the time, the way he helped the United States was he fought while he was in the Army, and it raised money, blah, 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 for the Army and this and that. Didn't count against his record or for his record or anything like that, but it helped, create money for the World War II effort. Well, years later, the government taxed him. It was like some big tax that, he had gotten in some bad advice or whatever, so he got into this major tax hole. And the government kind of held him liable for it, and so he had to pay it back. And so he needed a job, and Frank Sinatra helped him get work here in Las Vegas, so they became really good friends. It was a great story. But afterwards, we're walking in the pool area over at Caesar's Palace, and the pool is packed. It's a summer day or so, I guess it must have been. And Muhammad Ali starts walking through, and when I say he was a Pied Piper, like people just started following all the way from that area all the way into the casino, and the crowd behind him just kept growing and growing and growing, and he would play tricks on people. It was great. It was an amazing afternoon. Tremendous.
Absolutely love that. I love these kinds of stories, and these are the kind of stories, again, personally to each and every person, it's huge, right? And that's what shapes a lot of fandom. And I'm not saying, we're talking about Fernando Mendoza in the clip with FaceTiming Tom Brady. Like, he was a fan before, right? So this is obviously a different, a unique situation where now your boss, employer, the guy you answer to becomes, from role model, mentor to, again, boss, guy you're answering to. And it's fun, it's awesome, but now you got to go put the work in, right? And that's the beauty of it, and that's why I think the genuine, sincere nature that we saw with one Fernando Mendoza is it begs those memories to kind of rush to the surface once again. Let's get back out to the phone, shall we? 702-365-9200 is the number. Joining us now, Raider Mike. Good morning, Raider Mike. Happy Friday.
You guys, Clay's not there, but the band's almost together.
Yeah, Connor's here.
Yeah,
did you say hi to Connor, Raider Mike?
Of course I did.
Okay, just making sure.
I've already complimented him.
Oh, really? What was the compliment?
I just said he's doing a great job.
Okay.
Raider Mike has been very accommodating.
Welcome to the land of Raider Nation. And I got these kind of stories. But before the stories, Fernando, Tommy, I haven't seen it yet. I can't wait to watch it. They shut us down because one of the big dredge cranes is not working. So I got a day off, so I get to listen to you guys, golf, watch the World Cup, which wouldn't have happened unless we got shut down, and then sing at the bar and watching the World Cup. So anyway, Fernando, Tommy, that tears of joy, shape of things would come. I'm serious. I had literally tears of joy. We finally got our crap together after a quarter century. I'm lucky. I got to see the 3 Super Bowls, age 11, 15, 18. Most of the nation we've not tasted that. Mm-hmm. But it's coming. And that's why the tears of joy is shed. It's been way too long. Anyway, the stories, I got a couple really good ones. I'm about to meet my father, Colonel James Weig. He's a CIA fighter pilot for the first time in my life, basically, because he left when I was 2 to Nam to go do his CIA things. Anyway, I'm on my flight alone to go to Baltimore, where he was living with his new wife and my new little brothers that I've never met before either. So anyway, I sit down and I'm scared because I've never met Colonel Weig. And who sits next to me? Spock. Leonard Nimoy. And I knew every episode. I watched it since I was a little baby, essentially. So it was just, and he's calming me down because I tell him when I'm about to go meet my dad for the first time. So that was a good one. And then my dad takes me to the Oriole game, and he's a big wig with First National Bank. So where Boog Powell's barbecue is, that's kind of where the seats were. And also we could chase the foul balls, hitting practice home runs over the fence. And so I got to meet Boog Powell, Singletary, Jim Palmer, Eddie Murray, etc. But my hero, who I watched win 3 straight titles in Oakland, Reggie Jackson, had just been traded. And he jacks one in batting practice over the wall, right into the barbecue pit there, and I got the ball. I was a fast little kid, so I got that ball. So anyway, several baseball players and Leonard Nimoy, Spock. I love Spock. Who doesn't love Spock? Next, I'm in North Hollywood. I moved to L.A. in like 86. And Colors came out, and I went to go watch the movie Colors. Mike Tyson sits basically right next to me. And I had snuck some Jim Beam in. So I got to do shots of Jim Beam with Mike Tyson while I watched Colors.
Whoa!
And Sean Penn. Yes. Yeah. True story. My friend was there. I got a guy who could confirm that one. So anyway, that was because it was 87, I think. He was the man then. And when you meet him in presence, like, whoa, that is a human pit bull. It would just rip my head off and eat it. I'll eat your children, So anyway, lastly, I did a movie called Body of Evidence with Willem Dafoe, and the scene I'm in with him, the beer had to be constant because we shot that thing till like 4 in the morning, 42 times. And so Dafoe kept coming over and pouring half my beer into his own glass he found. And anyway, so I was trying to call. Anyway, to finish the story, I got to hang out pretty much for 7-8 hours with Willem Dafoe talking movies. Coolest guy in the world. Got to meet Julianne Moore. She was just breaking in. But Madonna, not allowed to talk to her.
Well,
you can't go near her.
They saw you, Raider Mike. They're like, we can't let this guy.
Oh, yeah. Well, I look like Sean Penn. So, I was thinking, I can move in on this. I can take her. I got this. No, you don't, Mike. Go sit down in your Armani and do the scene with Willem and shut up and do your thing. So anyway, those are the stories. I'm just in a glow of hope. But I don't think it's hope. That's wanting with doubt. I think it's going to happen. It's done. Done deal. Love the show. Great to hear you guys' voices again. Peace. Ray!
That's Raider Mike. Vinny, did you know he was an actor?
I heard, that that he does some singing and stuff like that. So
yeah, we knew he
had
a band,
sure, but kind of
Willem Dafoe. That's not. We're talking A-lister.
Yeah, definitely, without a doubt. That was a great story,
new.
as Mike. Yeah,
sorry,
no doubt.
I learned something new every time Raider Mike pops on.
Right, he is a Renaissance man. Does a little bit of everything, man.
702-365-9200 is the number. We want to continue to hear from you, your stories, your heroes, your athlete experiences. Plus, we're going to dive more into the Raiders, behind the shield, what comes next for the Silver and Black as the offseason rolls on, as well as Raider Nation Radio 920 here on the Morning Tailgate.
We'll take your comments and questions on X. Follow us at RNR920AM. Let's dig in to the Morning Tailgate on Raider Nation Radio 920.
Just a credit to John for getting so much competition in that room, and we want to keep pushing the starters and young guys like Zeke. Have had some good springs. Happy with his work ethic. Again, just like just like everybody else on the roster, what is he going to do when the pads come on? What are you going to do, Zeke, if you're listening?
Raiders head coach Clint Kubiak, when asked by our own Vinny Bonsignor about the reps from Trey Stooks, Zeke Masses, the rookies in the secondary, the injection of youth in the DB room. What are you going to do, Zeke?
You know, it's funny that you should bring that up, Vince, because it's a reminder of, as much as we want to prognosticate the offensive line to this point, and I think it's shaping up a certain way. Got to wait till the pads come on, and the Chargers offensive coordinator Mike McDaniel, they have a big battle on their hands for their offensive line. Obviously, their tackles are set, and maybe their center, but their two guards aren't set. And he said, "Look, I find myself, kind of fighting that. Oh, that looks good right there, that good." And then I realize, hold on a second, we don't have our pads on yet. And it's one thing to know where you're supposed to be. It's one thing to be working in unison at this stage of the year. He goes, but until you get the pads on, and until you ask somebody to block somebody for 3 seconds, he goes, you cannot get ahead of yourself in that regard. So we're talking about Spencer Burford being over at left guard, and I'm there's no reason to think that he's not. He's shown that he can do that, so we'll see how it all plays out. But let's reserve judgment on all of that, just like with Masses, as Clint Kubiak alluded to. All right, we saw you out there in shorts and all that. Are you going to bring the heat when you need to bring the heat? Are you going to be physical? Are you going to be able to tackle people? Are you going to be a force in that regard? Or are you just somebody, not to say that, not to suggest that he's anything like this, but obviously they kind of let him know in no uncertain terms. We loved what we saw. Now we got to see you hit out there. Now we got to see you be physical out here. And that goes right on down to the offensive line as well. As much as we gleaned from what we saw in minicamp and OTAs, until all those guys are asked to block somebody for 3 seconds, that remains a question that's unanswered.
Offensive line's in question. A lot of questions in the DB room. But man, Trey Stooks, every time he speaks, right, and I already forget who was it, Charles in Oregon, who said every time Trayden, again, not to keep going back, but the Golden Knights just announced Ryan Craig as their head coach, right? And he's known him since he was 15 years old. And Kellen McCrimmon said he's been talking like a 40-year-old since he was 15. And that reminds me of Trey Stooks, because every time he talks in front of a microphone, it feels like he's been in the league for 10, 15 years, right? He just kind of has that manner, has that demeanor, has that presence of a guy that may not have it all figured out, but he is put together. And if he doesn't have it figured out, you feel pretty confident he's going to put it together. And it's just the way he conducts himself, presents himself. And, Trey Stooks was profiled in that Behind the Shield during the combine, during the interview process. And again, it's easy when, he gets drafted by the Raiders. We've seen him on the field a few times, and it's like, yeah, this guy feels like he's going to be a dude. But you go back now in the time machine, that is that episode of Behind the Shield, Vinny, and you listen to him speak to that room full of front office staff, scouts, and you're like, it's very obvious how he blew them away. He's just so impressive as a player, and then you turn on the tape and you're like, oh, he's really freaking good. So hence the excitement for Trey Stooks, and when you put all of it together, it's easy to see why many believe, outside of a Fernando Mendoza, this guy might be the guy we're talking about in terms of the rookie class years down the line.
Yeah, it's also interesting. He's 24 years old, so, I think that shines through. I know 24, 22, what's the big difference? Well, there is a big difference. Go remember you being 21, 22, compared to 24, 25. So he comes into the NFL at, kind of an advanced stage compared to other rookies. Look, Fernando Mendoza is 22 years old, so there's a 2-year difference right there. That's 2 years of growth. And I think he's wired like that to begin with, but you add the fact fact in the fact of of him being just more mature than your normal rookie age-wise. That helps. And so, and I think that's kind of a byproduct of a lot of different things, the way college football is structured now. And I think you're going to see more and more of these kind of older rookies. And there's a flip side to that, and, positives and negatives, because you're going to get older a little sooner in the league. That's just mathematics. But you're also getting guys at a more advanced stage of their life, and a more mature stage, hopefully, for those that use it wisely. And it seems like Traden Stukes has. So they're getting somebody that, from a physical standpoint and from a mental standpoint, is a little bit further ahead of the game than most rookies. And I think that's kind of what they saw when they were going through his assessment, on the top of the fact, as you said, the guy could play some pretty good damn football.
702-365-9200 is the number. Continuing to get your thoughts. We want to hear more from you. Coming up in hour number 3, what that moment meant to you, seeing one Fernando Mendoza. FaceTime. Tom Brady. If you got FaceTime by Fran Tarkenton, Vinny, your reaction would be what? Obviously, years prior.
Yeah, the first question I would ask him is, what was it like playing for Bud Grant? Back in those days. And I know that, and I feel it just like he feels it. Going to the Super Bowl 3 times and losing 3 times for him, and the Vikings as an organization lost 4 times. So I would thank him, because he was my dad's favorite player, and so that's why I became his favorite. That's why he became my favorite player. So I would thank him for, hey, you don't even know it, but the role that you played with me and my dad, being able to watch you play on Sundays, and how that drew us together. So that's kind of how that conversation would go, I'm sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, quarterback really is the name of the game, and. The other part of this Behind the Shield feature that we saw was something that you were at, Vinny, the Pro Day in Bloomington with the Hoosiers. And boy, was that coffee machine working or what in the Behind the Shield? The amount of coffee being poured, the amount of scouts that were there. It was fascinating to get a glimmer to see through the lens of one John Spytek and the Raiders as a whole, watching Fernando do his thing, kind of control what was the Pro Day. There's a lot of things that are set up and scheduled. You've been to a ton of them, that they are set up, they are pre-planned, everything that goes with it. However, that one felt like it was set up by Fernando himself, and I think that was even more proven when we saw that episode last night.
Yeah, and you kind of knew where all this was headed, because Silver and Black Productions was there at the Pro Day. Wonder why that was happening.
That's weird.
What
are they doing here?
I knew that obviously there was going to be a show about all this, which was great that they were able to get all that footage and be a part of it, and be able to deliver this to Raider fans, and get a peek behind the scenes, and really get a chance to see some of what I saw that day in Bloomington. It was an amazing day, to say the least, on a lot of different levels, and to see the army of people that were there for the Raiders. They made it was a show of force, and it helped them be able to then sit down. And I think it's funny because interacting with some people that were there from the Raiders, and kind of trading some notes basically about what I was seeing, and obviously they saw it too, because that work ethic, it was just like it was so. It was so right there in front of you. You couldn't miss it.
So obvious.
And it wasn't orchestrated. It was orchestrated. Obviously, it was part of his plan. But it wasn't forced. It felt totally organic. It felt like that's that dude. That's who he is. And I think that blew everybody away, myself. And I'm just, me over there watching. But I think everybody from the Raiders was blown away in the same regard, including a guy like Clint Kubiak.
Silver and Black Productions, again, incredible. Their tight shot of Fernando dropping back at the Pro Day, dropping out of frame, and in the frame is Spytek, and just his eyes on Fernando is poetry in motion. That is cinema verite, as my professors would like to say over there. Chapman, shout out. Great stuff. We're going to continue to dive in what we saw behind the shield. We have a special mystery guest joining us to kick off hour number 3. Don't go anywhere. It's the Morning Tailgate, Raider Nation Radio 920.
This is the Morning Tailgate.
I'll just tell the Raider Nation that we have to earn your trust. We got to earn those seats in the stands by putting a great product on the field. Words will not do it. It's our actions.
With Vince Sapienza, Vinny Bonsignor, and Clay Baker on Raider Nation Radio 920.
It's hour number 3 here on the Morning Tailgate, Raider Nation Radio 920, the flagship for the silver and black. Vince Sapienza, Vinny Bonsignor, coming to you live from Las Vegas on a Friday, June 19th, 2026. We continue to react and look back at the moment all of Raider Nation was waiting for. Everybody wanted to see this on video. We heard about it. Fernando getting a FaceTime, his idol, his mentor, so to speak. The guy, he practiced, he prepped, he tried to become TB12. We saw it behind the shield. Episode 1. Who are we? 25 minutes, fantastic from Silver and Black Productions. We're reminiscing a little bit of what first-time moments we had with athletes, mentors, whatever it may be that helped shape you. And joining us to kick off hour number 3 is, as I said, a mystery guest. And full disclosure, a mentor. To me, a guy who, when I was an intern for Fox Sports Radio, I would do the overnights. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't do anything. I sat there, I took my notes, I figured out how they talked, what to do, what not. I didn't really do much, but I got credit. At the end of every show that I was on, this man across from me right now would always thank everybody in the studio, including the interns, me. And when he would say my name, Vince Sapienza, I would clip it. I sent it to my friends. I sent it to family saying, look, Ma, I made it. And now I get to introduce the great, the one, the only, JT the Brick. Join us on, you just can't get enough Raider Nation Radio. Yeah. Even in June, middle June, JT.
I'm knocking on doors early in the morning, and I pop by to say hi to you and Vinny and Colin, who's been working with me this week as Clay is out, and I love listening when I'm listening, and I'm excited to talk about what you guys are talking about with Fernando. You mentioned Silver and Black Productions. What a job they do. Most people don't understand that. Every NFL team has in-house production, right? They have a TV podcast. No one has what the Raiders have. No one has the resources, the studio space, the programming that continues to come at you in waves. And I watched that behind the shield. That was pretty impressive.
It sure was, and they all are. And this one in particular, I think JT really struck a nerve because it goes right to the heart of what we've been talking about throughout this offseason in terms of everyone being on the same page, the work that they put in to make this a what is on paper, obviously, a spectacular offseason from free agency right on down to the draft. That, obviously the headliner is Fernando Mendoza, but it goes pretty deep in that draft. So the behind-the-scenes look that you got to see from Brandon Yergin and Brian Stark and all the others that had a hand in helping John Spytek put together this offseason and put together that draft evaluation process of Fernando and some others. What were your takeaways from that?
The details, Vinny. I mean, we all knew they were taking Fernando. They probably did too, but they followed the process because they're building a new scouting department, which has turned over a lot, and a new department under John Spytek that's turned over a lot before he got there, and they want to do it correctly. So my big takeaway is, even though you have the first pick in the draft, or you look at the NBA draft coming up here, you're going to have the top 2 picks. You look at the top 2 players and you do your due diligence on them deeply in case you don't want the number 2 pick, but now you learn about the number 2 pick because you're going to be competing against him for the next 10 years and you want all the information. That's what Al Davis Davis made his bones with. Al Davis, the legend of the Maverick that got him into the Hall of Fame and the Super Bowls, was he knew the players and the personnel better than any owner by far, and the majority of executives and GMs at the time. He just had a vast, deeper knowledge of the sport, and he had the resources of contacts, Vinny, as you know, all across the country, from colleges to black colleges to the league. He had moles on other teams. He had former players that were GMs on other teams, and he knew when to call them and what to ask for. So I just think the due diligence of the Raiders after they went after Fernando Mendoza, and it just showed how buttoned up Fernando was, because he knew that was coming, and how buttoned up the Raiders was. It's a really good piece for everybody to watch to see how diligent everyone was to make this right.
JT the Brick joining us here on the Morning Tailgate, Raider Nation Radio 920. I want to get your thoughts on the AFC West, but first, the genuine, sincere nature that you saw of Fernando in that FaceTime. Because you saw it. Two, you heard it in his voice. Oh, shoot. Hey, Mr. Brady. I mean, Tom, trying to keep it cool. You've met a lot of athletes in your career. Is there one in your formidable days, as whether you were still up and coming on radio, doing TV, whatever it may be, that you remember helped shape you in terms of seeing that the genuineness? Because we're all kind of jaded at this point when we meet athletes, like, hey, good to see, it's another guy, especially here in Vegas. Like you throw a rock, you hit a celeb somewhere across the way. Any of those guys jump out to you?
Yeah, good question. I think the one would be Charles Woodson. When Woodson got drafted in Oakland, and I got a chance to interview him first and get to know him, and then Charles wasn't really buttoned up in the beginning. Charles was a big celebrity from the Heisman, was committed to the Raiders, but he was young and immature at the time, and I watched him grow into that, and how he developed, and the energy that he had as a rookie, to finding out that he needed to commit more to his craft and learn more under Willie Brown and all the great legends at the time. That jumps out to me with Charles. But I'll tell you, Vince, the difference with Mendoza, and I don't know him well. We introduced him at the first day. I'm going to be hosting the draft class luncheon Monday, which he and three of his draftee teammates will be there, and he's just super humble, and he's a great kid, and he's the type of guy that you want to build a franchise around, because he comes in with no baggage. A lot of first-round picks, number one overall picks, quarterbacks, have some baggage. They really do. They come into the league, they're world famous in college, and they're just not as committed. They don't have the right mentor, the right coach, and maybe they flame out, or it takes them 3 or 4 years. Kyler Murray, good example, right? Kyler Murray, I watched him play at Oklahoma, Vinny. He was not a hell of a player. He was amazing, right? So my son went there. I went to a few of those games, and then he gets drafted by a bad team, and he doesn't have a mentor, and he doesn't have the coaches within there, and he kind of strayed for a couple of years, and then you hear about his video games, and is he really committed? And now he has to be committed in Minnesota. This is the last stop, most likely, of his career. So what I love about Fernando is it doesn't seem like there's any baggage coming in. He's all ball, and Vinny, he's going to be playing for a head coach that's all ball, no nonsense, and that's what I like.
Yeah, I completely agree. And the other part of it is, it's refreshing to see the aw shucks and all that kind of stuff. But don't even think for a second that that's who he is on the football field, because there's a transformation that happens with Fernando Mendoza when he gets between the lines. That's the practice lines. That's the meeting rooms. That's the the playing field. A switch goes on. He becomes a different person. And this is a guy that is a cutthroat competitor. We saw that in the championship run. We saw him bull rush, run over people to get to the end zone. There was no aw shucks, Mr. Brady and all that kind of stuff happening when all those bullets were flying. And I think that's what's so great. There is no baggage, but don't mistake any of that. And I know you're not, but I'm just saying, like, for the image of him that's out there, the kind of goofy kind of a guy, nothing can be further from the truth or different than when he gets on the field. And how excited are you going to be able to see that on a daily basis in practice when we get to training camp and then to games?
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait. And look, I'm very honest. I might exaggerate. I've been known to exaggerate, but I've always been honest. And I still have not come to grips with him not starting week one. That's me. Yeah. And I know other people have different opinions, and that's what's great about sports radio. I want more people with differing opinions than I have. And I'm just used to my whole career, even before I had a radio show, of number one picks overall starting. You throw them in the washing machine. They get tumbled around. Hopefully they don't get hurt. I watched Peyton Manning break the all-time interception record as a rookie. Then Baker Mayfield. You look at all these people that played, and you're like, but they had a year under their belt with all the trials and tribulations. That's not going to happen here unless something really unique happens in training camp where he just blows out Kirk Cousins. No one knows this Kubiak playbook on earth. Other than, I think he knows it better, Cousins, than even Sam Darnold, who won the Super Bowl. Okay, that's how much he knows it. He just didn't play on a team like Sam Darnold did. So he has a big advantage, Kirk Cousins, with this playbook. He's not going to fail in training camp. He's probably not going to play much in the preseason. If he gets to start, it'll be fascinating here on Raider Nation Radio how the fans handle Kirk having an off game, throwing 2 picks. Do you give him another game? Do you put Fernando in? And then I'll throw it back at both you guys, because I know Q has different opinions. We all do. That, I don't want to wait till week 10. I don't, because that means week 1 is gone. Year 1 is gone. Other than meetings, which are really important, and the growth, I get all that. But, is it week 5, Vinny? Is it week 10? Is it week 11? None of us know. That'll be a fascinating topic that drives this channel for quite the time, I think the whole season.
Yeah, and I think that there's people in that building who fully expect Fernando to put himself right in the running to start day one, flat out. I don't think there's any there won't be any hesitation to start him if that is the case. And there's people, I'm saying, that in the building are like, kind of fully expect that to be the case. So I'm not ruling out week 1, and I'm with you. With where the Raiders are, in their journey, I think it would almost be a waste not to play him this year, because I'm looking at 2027 as the year where things really like in a powerful way for the Raiders. They're really announcing themselves. So why would you wait until 2027 or late in this season and kind of not take full advantage of this year as a development year for Fernando Mendoza on the football field, not behind the scenes watching Kirk Cousins, on the football field, going through all those trials and tribulations to put him ahead of the curve so he's ready to go in 2027. All that ups and downs and growing pains and all that already happened. And he's not have to wait for 2027 for that to happen. I think that would be my preference, and I think that there's people in the building that are going to be open-minded about, okay, if he's ready to go out there and acquit himself, and he's not going to get destroyed by the offensive line, and we feel good about that part of it. I feel like they'll make that decision. Now we'll have to wait and see, because anything can happen in training camp, one way or the other. But they are open-minded about getting him on the field as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and just a segue, and thanks for having me on here, guys. The one thing that I've been really passionate about this week, and it kind of came out of nowhere. The Knicks win the championship. I'm on a high. I went to Game 6. Golden Knights get shut out 3-0.
All right.
I go to the extreme lows. But, we're going back and forth with callers and talking. I'm really big on this topic with Mendoza going forward about turning the Raiders into a Super Bowl championship team. And I think with the wars that I go at with Kansas City, Charger fans don't fight back. They don't exist. And then you look at Denver. Denver's emboldened again. Denver's fan base is big. They're loud. They got a lot of momentum. Mendoza has to be great. We have Jim Plunkett's history. We have the history of the snake. Derek Carr was a very good player, really good. Didn't win in the playoffs because he didn't get the opportunity. This franchise will be reborn with Fernando Mendoza. Mendoza gives us in Raider Nation the opportunity to be great, to win multiple Super Bowls. You got to win one first to win multiples. Snake in the 5 AFC championship games, okay? Think of that. He was a third-string quarterback who had to go play in the Continental League and then come back and sit behind LaMonica, and Blanda played at times. When is Snake going to get on the field? He was ready, and then the rest is history. Mendoza gives us a chance in the Raider Nation to be better than the Chiefs in Denver in a couple of years. Not this year, but in a couple of years. And once he gets there, he cannot turn back. So when I look at the history of the number one pick overall, John Elway was benched in the 6th game. He was awful. He was awful. Steve DeBerg went in for him, but it was his team. We take a look at the greats who had a chance to play number 1 overall, the all-time greats that came in. Peyton Manning, we mentioned. He struggled early. Super Bowl champions. He is in the same room coming into the pros as Elway, Luck, Manning, all the other greats who went number 1 overall, and many of them achieved greatness. He has to achieve greatness. He'll have the coaching, he'll have Brady, he'll have the ownership, he'll have the indoor stadium, the dome, not bad weather to play in. He'll have everything set up beautifully in the next 2 to 3 years to compete for multiple Super Bowls, and it's just got to be right. They got to thread the needle with this kid. I've been saying here for years, decades with the Raiders, threading the needle. Everything that's gone wrong now has to go right. Spytek, Kubiak, Tom Brady, Mendoza. And the core group of Mendoza, Bowers, Genti, and Linderbaum. I talk about a triangle, or if you take a look at a triangle or some type of shape of these, the core 4. The Yankees had the core 4. I believe the core 4 going forward for the Raiders are Linderbaum, Mendoza, Genti, and Bowers. They must play in Super Bowls. They must compete in AFC championship games, or this is an abject failure. This is it. Yeah. This is the moment where they have to be great in 27, Vinny, 28, 29, 30, where we go, man, this team's living deep in the playoffs like the Raiders were with Ken Stabler in the 70s.
Right, correct. And, I'm not going to say they got to win multiple Super Bowls. That would be great. But if you're in that conversation every year, look at the Golden Knights. They as much success as they've had, they've been one of, how many teams are there in the NHL? 30? So they've 32. Been one of 30. 32. They've been one of 32 one time, having been there 3 times and being one of the best teams, a collection of all-stars, basically. It's tough to thread that needle. But for the Raiders right now, what needs to happen for this to not be an abject failure, what needs to happen is that they got to maximize the asset that Fernando Mendoza is, and by doing that, they need to win, and they need to be in the conversation year in and year out, just like the Philadelphia Eagles, just like the 49ers now, just like the Rams are now. They need to be one of those teams where every single year you look at that team and say, somehow, some way, they're going to play a factor in this. They're going to play a role in this. It doesn't mean they have to win multiple. That'd be great, and I'm not putting it past them to do that or shortchanging them in any way in that regard. But right now, the starting point needs to be get to that point where you are one of those teams that invariably you got to go through Las Vegas at some point if you want to go to that next level. So getting to that point requires them maximizing Fernando Mendoza, or else they don't have any chance anytime soon unless they do that. Unless Fernando Mendoza is every bit as good as Fernando Mendoza is supposed to be and is capable of being.
Well, I have no idea how good Fernando Mendoza is going to be. None of us do. I think we all think that his floor is extremely high, but the common denominator, JT, for me, with all those other quarterbacks, isn't necessarily the number 1 overall pick. That's great. Yeah. It's the mental fortitude that all those quarterbacks displayed and that everybody seems to talk about with Fernando Mendoza. Peyton Manning, all the interceptions. Troy Aikman, if you want to go back to 1 in 15.
Good example.
1 in 15. The mental fortitude. We can talk about toughness till we're blue in the face. We can replay. Connor can replay the clip of him flying through the air in the end zone. Awesome. Love it. It's the mental fortitude for me that why I believe Fernando Mendoza will not only have longevity in the league, but success for the silver and black, because he will not be deterred. He has not been deterred. He goes from Cal to, he's ascending to Cal to where he gets to Indiana, and he goes through some stuff. It might not be highs and lows of losses in college football, but he went through stuff. And every person that we've talked to that's either dealt with Fernando, Coach Fernando, has talked about his mental capacity. It was OTAs. Granted, OTAs, take it with a grain of salt. What I saw is something I've never seen a quarterback do. When he's going through his progressions, not only did he throw the ball, he continued his progressions. To me, he's visualizing. He's going through a level of preparation I have not seen, albeit a somewhat limited capacity, my time here in Las Vegas. But he is going through the mental hoops. And is he going to wrestle away the starting job from Kirk Cousins week 1? I think a lot of Raider Nation hope he does. Kirk Cousins is putting his foot in the sand right now and sitting there saying, this is my team. I'm going to command it, as he should. Anything else would be a disaster if you were Kirk Cousins. He was on this show during Super Bowl week sitting here saying, I did not have a better season than the one I did with Clint Kubiak calling the shots. So to your point, his excitement to work with him, through the roof. Great. It's on Fernando to not only be ready, but to be able to wrestle that job away from a guy who, as you said, knows this playbook like the back of his hand.
Yeah, I have no problem with Kirk Cousins starting the season. I mean, who am I? They're going to put in whoever they want to play, and Kirk's a really good player, and he's got to hit the ground running. I know we got to wrap this up, but if you look at the first 3 games, he's got to win 2 out of 3. Period. That's it. And New Orleans is much better than you think. They are in their building. They're better than you think. But the Raiders could beat them because the Raiders got 7 new starters in free agency. Miami, to me, nothing's a must-win. But
you got
to win that game. And then the Chargers, eventually we're going to win, right? At SoFi at some point. Eventually there's going to be a win there. But, I think all the fans understand that Mendoza is going to have some really big bumps along the way. There's going to be bad games. There's going to be, pick sixes. It happens to all of them. And we have to support this kid. Got to get behind him. He's ours. We're Raider Nation. Everyone in the country who doesn't like him or they don't like him because he's a Raider, that means there's got to be 5 other Raider fans that push those people off and say, no, he's our guy, which I like to talk about. And look, I think he's going to play at a really high level for a long period of time, but he's got to win. This is the moment. I know I've sat in this studio for 7 years. This coach is going to turn it around. This quarterback's going to turn around. I get it. This is different. This is the number 1 pick overall. He's a franchise-defining guy. This is the beginning of that journey.
What if the Raiders are 3-0? I mean, again, good problems to have. Champagne problems, right?
I would love that problem.
Yeah.
With that
JT.
With the schedule coming up after 3-0?
Week 5 through 11.
Yeah, I would love
Week
that start.
5 through. JT the Brick.
Thanks, guys.
JT, even on your off time, you can't help yourself.
It's good to be in the building. There's a lot of energy in here today.
You're the man, JT.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. JT the Brick.
Take care, JT.
JT's back
Thank you.
in a couple hours. so make sure you stay with us. Here on the flagship of the Silver and Black, 702-365-9200 is the number. We want to hear from you. We're talking Fernando on a Friday, as well as the Behind the Shield, the moment, the genuine moment of care. It's the Morning Tailgate, Raider Nation Radio 920.
Vince, Vinny, and Clay want to hear from you. Call or text the show at 702-365-9200. Now, back to the Morning Tailgate.
Welcome back inside the Morning Tailgate, Raider Nation Radio 920. JT the Brick, what a beauty. What a gem. Just walking the halls here, Vinny, and he can't help himself. Just finds his way back in. We get him for an unbelievable segment to talk Fernando Mendoza and the future of the Raiders. And
I'm surprised he's still standing upright after his New York Knicks.
When he walked in, I go, shouldn't you be still parading somewhere in one of the boroughs? Yeah, he's been on cloud 9 the last couple days.
No doubt about it.
And for good reason. But, Vinny, the reason, and I want to make sure we hit this home, okay? Because you mentioned, like, the aw shucks and, the G, big smile and all that stuff, right? And I get that that's the perception. The reason why I bring that up and the genuine, the sincerity, and why Raider Nation needs to get behind him is because you see the care. That's why I bring it up. You see the legitimate, genuine care. And that's not to say other guys in similar didn't care as much. That's not what I'm saying. But you visibly see it. There's other guys where things are underneath the surface, right? And sometimes you got to pull it out of them. And they're the competitive and all this nature. You see the care. And the other beauty of it is what you alluded to. You see the switch flip on the field. You don't see the aw shucks. You don't see this, oh, gee, man, just happy to be. You see a silent assassin. You see a killer. You see a guy who goes for the jugular each and every time the opportunity presents itself. And I think it's a fascinating, interesting, unique dynamic that Fernando Mendoza brings, because he's not going into the quarterback room just all smiles, happy to be there. He's going in there to win jobs. And you heard it. You were there at his pro day. I don't know how many times he said it. We should have had a counter on it. But he said, I'm getting ready to play professional football in September. And he wasn't talking about getting backup reps for whatever team. He was talking about
to be
playing.
The best version of myself in
right.
September. Yeah, to be prepared to go be the quarterback that I have to be. That this organization is putting its faith in, and it's not to say that he's going to be the perfect quarterback come September. Far from it. There's going to be, and this is a great thing. There's going to be levels to his play, and he'll eventually, hopefully, get to that highest level as the years go on. But yeah. To be as prepared as possible come September, to be the guy, here's the keys, let's go win some football games.
Here's the other part, and I strongly urge everybody to go check out episode 1, Who We Are, Behind the Shield from the Raiders. It's fantastic. I don't want to. I didn't want to come on here and just start playing 25 minutes worth of sound, because we could have easily done that and it would have been dynamic and it would have been fascinating. But I just want to give you. It goes with what we're talking about here. John Spytek.
Press conference at the end, you said you had a lot of media training.
Yeah.
So what's different about the way that maybe the media training projected you to the masses and the guy that we're sitting here talking to right now?
I would say that. I didn't have social media this season, so the media painted a picture about me that was maybe a little different than my true personality. Especially at the Ohio State game, after I said, flipping instead of. And at that point, it was like, okay, he doesn't curse, he's a goody two-shoe, and I don't know. My whole thing is you gotta communicate. You gotta communicate with your teammates, communicate with your coaches. So let me get really good at speaking. I've always, taken speech classes. I've always looked on YouTube videos how to communicate. How to be a better leader. I'm a huge reader as well. So with that, it's developed senses where people are like, oh, this guy's ChatGPT. But whenever you ask any of my team, I'm sure, I don't want to speak for them, but I've been able to connect with my teammates really, really well, and not like a ChatGPT scenario.
How about that self-awareness? And really, is that not the question everybody's been asking? And the question comes from the Raiders general manager, the very top, John Spytek. You've had a lot of media training. We get that. Well, how do we know what's real? How do we know what's not? I answered it again, sincerely, correct. And again, the self-awareness that he sits there and people just think I'm ChatGPT. But you talk to any one of my teammates, and we've listened, and nobody that he's played with, worked with, coached by is saying he's ChatGPT in terms of the fakeness, in terms of not being real. They say he's not real in terms of being a machine, in terms of his preparation. That's the good. But that's the personality, and that's why that was the basis of our topic of a 3-hour show this morning here on a Friday, was the genuine sincerity of that moment with Tom Brady and the ripple effects that those questions that were asked about Fernando Mendoza. Is he putting on a front? Is this just putting on an act? It's clear he's not.
Well, it's also clear that he understands the assignment. The quarterback is the leader of your football team. It doesn't work any other way. It really doesn't. I can name me a situation where it wasn't the quarterback, right? And that doesn't say that doesn't mean that you don't have leaders everywhere else on your team. You have to have those leaders in each position room, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the face of your franchise is the quarterback, and It always has been. Well, I wouldn't say always has been, but in our recent lifetime, it always has been, and it always will be. And he understands that, and he understands he needs to be a leader. And part of being a leader is being able to, number one, connect with everyone in the room on their level, the way they talk, the way they are, while still being yourself, while going out there to talk to the media. Of course, you need media training to be able to refine that and understand what that part of the role is. He understands that role, so he's going to go and be as good in that role as he possibly can, because guess what? The cameras are always going to be on Fernando Mendoza. He's going to be the guy that goes up to the podium after every game. The first player to go talk to the media after a game is the quarterback. Win, lose, or draw. What the hell just happened? Good, bad, indifferent. Explain it to us, leader of this football team. Be the leader on the field. Be the guy that commands a huddle. Be the guy that can look at Max Crosby in the eye and say, sit down and shut up. I got this, and be comfortable doing that, which he will. And not to say that in a bad way, I'm not saying that, but be able to jaw with Max Crosby, be able to bring it like Max Crosby, and not cower in the face of a Max Crosby who is the leader of that defense. He understands all of that, those things, and in a very genuine way, he is honing those skills, because you have to hone those skills. Nobody just walks into that and becomes that or is that. You have to work at it. Some guys aren't as comfortable speaking in front of the cameras. Some people aren't as wired to go command a room, command a locker room, command a huddle. Some guys need a little bit more work in that regard. But the fact is, he understands all the layers to the role that he's going to play for this franchise, and in a genuine way, while still being himself, is going to master all of those layers and become, in the pursuit of becoming the leader and being the face of this franchise.
It's going to make for absolute theater training camp, right? I mean, in the small glimpses that we saw in OTAs, Kirk Cousins was as vocal as any player out on the field. Albeit, Max Crosby was not on the field, so we'll see. I can't wait for that verbal assault on one another.
But here's one thing. I have to say this, Vince, and we're going to do our part to play into it and to feed into it. If I'm the Raiders, the last thing I want this to be is theater. And I understand what you're saying. I do. I totally understand. It's gonna be great for us to go over there and watch. But for this to really work, it needs to happen organically for Fernando Mendoza. Kirk Cousins, for sure. He's the guy, the stopgap, whatever you want to call him. He's here for a temporary period of time. This is going to be Fernando's team, and you want to cultivate that in a very correct way. And one of the ways to do that is to make sure that he understands, which I know he does, is not every day is the Grammy Awards out there, or is some play out there, or some award-winning movie. There's going to be good moments. There's going to be bad moments, and it's just keep chopping that wood day in and day out. Again, focus on the very next step ahead of you. Don't make this so big. And I know by nature, because he's the number one pick and he's a quarterback, we're all going to make it to be that. But from his perspective and from this team's perspective, it can't be that. Every day has to be a new day. Every day has to be a new step toward the goal that they will ultimately want to get to, which is making him the best quarterback in the NFL, the best version of Fernando Mendoza. And one way you do that is not by making this bigger than what it really is. He's a young football player, a rookie quarterback at the end of the day, who's going to be the face of this franchise and be the key to unlock Super Bowl championships and Super Bowl contentions. We all get that. But don't make it so big that it's kind of overwhelming. Just work hard, continue to do what you're doing, continue to focus on the very next step, and we are all going to get there together.
Well, I guess I don't know what you mean. Well, when I say I want it to be theater, I think fans want it to be theater as well. I think they want to see the best version of
training camp.
Yeah, I think they want to see.
No. I mean, I get that. Yeah, that's competition. But
that's what I'm saying. That's the
when
best.
When you say theater, it makes it sound like we're going to be running to our notebook, running to our and on this day this happened and that happened. I don't think this is a quarterback controversy, quarterback competition that's theatrical. There are some that are. I'm not denying that. In its own way.
Well, no. Let me finish then, because clearly that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is the theater of it. I want to see the best version of Kirk Cousins. I want to see the highs and lows, because if I'm Raider Nation, I want the best version of Kirk Cousins, so that if and when Fernando takes the job, it's because he outright won it, wrestled away from it. I don't know if he's going to start week 1. I don't know if it's going to be till week 6 to week 10. JT sits there and says it needs to be week 1. That's his opinion. I don't disagree with that. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but the reason why I think it's going to be theater, it should be theater, is because you want to see the ebbs and flows. Theater isn't all ascending up and to the right. It's highs and lows to what you're talking about. There's going to be bad days. Of course we're going to talk about it. Kirk Cousins not going to have a great day every single day either. The ebbs and flows of it is what makes it theater. That's what makes it fun to watch, whether you're reporting on it, whether you're a fan of it. Understanding that the end goal is not this season, the end goal is not this training camp. I want to see the peaks and valleys, the highs and lows this training camp with Fernando to see how he bounces back.
Without a doubt, but I do not believe they are going to couch it to him as you got to go wrestle this job away from Kirk Cousins.
Why not?
Because I think how they're going to set it up is this is your journey. This is you're not competing against on some level. Yes, you are competing against Kirk Cousins, but what your race is your race. We have Kirk Cousins here to hold things down in case on your race you're not quite ready to be the guy that we feel like hey, you're going to be able to go out there and acquit yourself. So focus on your race. This isn't a line it up, Kirk Cousins and Fernando Mendoza, and let's see who crosses that finish line at the very end. And I know, and I personally think if it's even close, if it's even in the neighborhood, I think the lean would be toward Fernando Mendoza. So I don't think that they are going to set this up. I don't think we should set this up as.
But it is a competition at the end of the day, whether it's him versus him or him versus Kirk. So
I get
again,
that. I get that. But it's also about where are you. It's also about where are you for Fernando.
I understand that.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Semantics aside, whether I call it theater, whether you're pitting him against Kirk or him against himself.
You're not.
I'm not. No, and I've said it before. He's running his own race.
Very much so.
I've said that for weeks now. What I'm saying, though, it doesn't take away the fact that the back and forth is going to be fascinating to watch to see how he responds. 702-365-9200. We'll continue this conversation inside the final sit-down next here on the Morning Tailgate.
We'll take your comments and questions on X. Follow us at RNR920AM. Let's dig in to the Morning Tailgate on Raider Nation Radio 920. This is the Morning Tailgate.
Oh, Kaisan. Oh! Back up. I'll talk to him about it. I've been telling you for months now this guy's no good. I want to sit down. All right. Answer the phone. I want to sit down.
Hey! On Raider Nation Radio 920.
Welcome back to the Morning Tailgate Show. Vinny Bonsignor, Vince Sapienza. And just to clear something up with what I was talking about in terms of the theater or how the quarterback competition is shaping up, I fully understand that there will be a quarterback competition to some extent, between Kirk Cousins and Fernando. But in from my perspective anyway, I don't think it's shaping up as that, this is going to be a battle to see who's, going to be the quarterback of this team. Both of you guys bring it, it's you against him, et cetera, et cetera. I think Fernando's going to be judged by Fernando on a day-to-day basis. What does his growth look like from one day to the next? And see where that gets him to the end of training camp and before they make that decision on the starting quarterback. And it's going to be, that decision is going to be sort of unto himself, and he's going to be judged unto himself. Now, of course, if it's a wide disparity between he and Kirk Cousins, if it's painfully obvious that Kirk Cousins is by far the better choice, that's going to that's going to be seen and heard and all of those types of things. But I don't think that they're going to go into. I don't think they're going to go. What I'm saying is, I'm not going to look at it. I'm going to be assessing Fernando Mendoza unto himself, and it's going to be, I'm not going to compare it on a daily basis to Kirk Cousins. It's going to be, what does Fernando Mendoza look like today compared to yesterday? There's going to be ups and downs, as Vince has said. But for me, I think it's just, this is developing Fernando Mendoza, getting him ready, getting him as far along in the process as possible during training camp, and see where that gets him, and maybe that gets him to a point where, he's ready to go out there and be the starting quarterback, as opposed to, kind of the Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew thing. I know that was a very small scale quarterback competition, but it literally was a quarterback competition where every single day you had to judge one against the other and try to decide who's the best option for the Raiders as the starting quarterback. I don't think it's shaping up like that kind of a competition. It's going to be, we kind of know what we're going to get from Kirk Cousins. Now let's develop Fernando Mendoza and assess him on a day-to-day basis and see where that ultimately gets him to the end of training camp, and is he ready to be the starting quarterback?
Organizationally, I don't disagree with you from the slightest in terms of how they're viewing it. I don't think, though, that they're not going to sit there and say, we want to see you compete. And that's one thing to say, to tell him. It's another thing for them to evaluate him in an entirely different light. I agree with you. This isn't Aiden O'Connell versus Gardner Minshew. No, at the end of the day, it will be a competition. And if it is close, I do think they will have to make a decision. I mean, and again, I would love to disagree with you just for the simple fact of good sports talk radio. But I agree. If it's anything close, it has to be Fernando.
Right.
If it's anything close, it has to be Fernando Mendoza. He is running his own race. But at the same time, for the team, there has to be an evaluation of how it stands compared to Kirk Cousins, considering what Kirk Cousins looks like. Because if Kirk Cousins is having this out-of-this-world training camp where he is 2 seasons ago, 3 seasons ago, Kirk Cousins looking, it's a real conversation. And then it becomes a real, quote-unquote, competition in terms of what the Raiders do week 1 of the NFL season. Is that the best-case scenario? Maybe. I think the best-case scenario, regardless of scenario, is Fernando starting day 1. That's what I think best-case scenario is for all parties involved. But how the organization views the quote-unquote competition is going to be different compared to how fans look at the competition, and it's going to be different than how a lot of us react, and look at what this quarterback battle, so to speak, I put it in quotes, looks like. Because again, it's almost like two-step verification, like I say, with starting Fernando. The offensive line has to be good. He has to be ready. Those are the two things that are absolute musts in order for him to equal week 1 starter. The other process is he has to be ready, and I think he has to outperform, at minimum, be on the same page or playing field as Kirk Cousins. He can't be so far. He's so far worse than Kirk Cousins.
Well, if he's so far worse, then he's not ready.
Well, what I'm saying is his progression from day 1 to, let's just call it, day 20 can be exponential. But if it's still worse than Kirk Cousins,
far worse,
Right, that's what I mean. If he's not there,
right? Yeah, that's obvious. Yeah, that is obvious. Vince.
But that's what I mean. So at some point, it is a competition with Kirk Cousins.
It is. But I do know that they're going to be very careful in not couching it in a way like it was. Hey man, go, like Antonio Pierce, somebody go grab that job. It's not going to be like that. That's not what this is. This is not that kind of a party, nor should it be, because then it's just introducing something that shouldn't even be there. With these two quarterbacks, obviously, Kirk Cousins has many advantages at this point, from experience, understanding of the offense, et cetera, et cetera. But if Fernando, to me, shows that he's not going to be overwhelmed, there will be ups and downs during the season, just as there will be with Kirk Cousins. He's not a perfect quarterback by any stretch of the imagination, but if he's able to go out there and acquit himself and not be overwhelmed, and when I say not be overwhelmed, legitimately not be able to go out there and give the team a chance to compete on a week-to-week basis. If he can't do that, then there's no way that you could put him out there. That's doing him a disservice as well as the team. But if you feel like, okay, it's close between him and Kirk, and maybe on some micro level, Kirk gives us a better chance to win this game Sunday against the Miami Dolphins. But for the betterment of this team, for the development of Fernando Mendoza, we're willing to sacrifice that little micro edge that Kirk might have in order to get him on the field and continue the process of developing this asset into what he is right now to what he's fully capable of being.
Kirk Cousins is going to be uber competitive as he should be, and I think the coaches want to see Fernando rise to that as well. It's his own race, but I think they want to see him match that competitiveness that Kirk is no doubt going to have, has shown in OTAs, etc., etc. What a day! It's a great day to have a great day. Go USA. Beat those Roos. Vinny, it's great to be back. It's great to talk ball.
1,000%, man. Have a great weekend.
We're back all week next week here on the Morning Tailgate. Can't wait to do it. Have a great weekend, everybody. Stay with the flagship for the Silver and Black for all your Raiders news and notes. Have a great weekend.